incredible to think, isn't it, how this particular thing happened, you know? It was supposed to be tighter than anything, almost tighter than the British Crown Jewels. Nobody was going to get to see it, of course, until it was exposed to the public, and more importantly, Anderson Cooper and the ITV newsreader Tom Bradby. But what's interesting here is suddenly leaks are happening. But who could have possibly leaked that book, particularly to the very soft soapy Guardian out in New York? As ever, let me explain. Good morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. Nice to have your company. As I said in the intro, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because nobody has truly seen inside the book, other than, of course, the ghostwriter, the top brass at Penguin Random House, who must be now reeling, thinking, what have we really signed up for? You know, how are we going to get any of this money back? But of course, it was all about keeping it under wraps, you know, so that allegedly nobody, like the journalists, the British public, the worldwide public, could find out what was in it until publication date. I remember similar situations, I'm sure you all do who watch this channel. Do you remember when Diana, her true story, that also had some kind of like cloak and dagger thing wrapped around it because apparently it was so explosive? And then, of course, they were different times. The early 90s, it was seen as really strange for a senior royal to leak out her own personal story to a journalist, you see? Like, of course, his mother. Prince Harry's following that template. No two ways about it. Every time he exposes more of himself, he does, of course, ruin the legacy of the late Princess Diana. Whichever way you look at it, she was no saint, and yet he's trying to paint his father in a terribly negative light. When you list the list of paramours that Diana had, it does read exactly like, well, if this was a B-list celebrity, you would kind of think, not exactly a classy lady. However, because of the royal attachment that Prince Harry hopes remains with Diana, then of course people see her in a more favourable light. But it's back to the leaking, really. How did this happen to that New York publisher? Well, according to a very good source within the journalistic world, a world of which I work, it's quite simple. They were directly given the book with extracts of passages that they would be allowed to leak. Not leak, but expose, you know, run. This is all because, as I've told you before, the bottom line is this. That book came directly from the people involved. It's not leaked out of an office. It's no journo sort of stealing it or, you know, intern from the office. It came directly. And according to another good source that worked with Meghan and Harry during the docu-series, he was busy reciting a lot of the story while wandering around that Montecito mansion. So if anybody really wanted to pick up snippets and tidbits, they could have simply listened to him. He wasn't exactly security-minded then. As I said to you before, not exactly, as many people have claimed before, the most, shall we say, diligent of people around the public. But now what's interesting here is that, again, it's sort of kind of backfired because a lot of people are taking the side of the Prince of Wales, naturally so, because they must think, well, he must have just been incredibly, frustrated, angry in a moment. Why not? All brothers have those moments, let me tell you. But what's interesting here is that they then want you to believe that they are so worried about palace leaks and people feeding against journalists against them, when truly they're clearly doing this themselves. Now, if I were Harry and Meghan and you want to abstain from claiming you know anything about this, come forward, create a fuss, start an investigation. What's the betting that that never truly happens? Because guess what? This is in their favour. They only want to get legal whenever the narrative simply doesn't suit them. So if you're wondering where are all these stories coming from over the next few days, look no further than the one that created or thought them up. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.